welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Tiana, and today I'll be sharing with you about the process which God is putting us through and how sometimes we can feel like we're stuck in the middle of this storm. And I'm going to get Dusak or Delilah to bring me up the little clicker. I forgot to grab it beforehand. But while they do that, I don't know how your year's been, but for me it's been a bit challenging. Nothing has gone to plan and it's been completely out of my control. And when God has answered one prayer for me, something else challenging happens in my life. And I just feel like God keeps throwing these storms into my life, which adds to the other storms that I'm still battling through. You may have noticed that I've entitled my talk, Trusting God's Process. Processes are something that happens a part of life. To achieve something, we take a series of actions or steps to achieve it. Whether that may be getting through the process and getting a task done at work, trying to achieve a goal, or taking small steps, maybe to cook that perfect dish that everyone will love. You want to achieve the final outcome. You're going through a series of steps, and sometimes that may not go to plan. In life, it's easy to say that we trust God when everything is going great, when everything is going according to our plan, but when it's turned upside down and we don't know what process He's putting us through, when we're stuck in the middle of the storm, I don't know about you, but the first thing I never ever say, the first thing is, oh yeah, I trust God. It always comes in the middle. It always comes towards the end. It's like this quote: faith trusts not only in God's promises, but also in God's process. Trusting God through the process means that we are trusting Him wholeheartedly, that we are letting God take us through the process of our life in His timing, not our timing, not my timing, not your timing. When we say we trust Him, we are trusting Him with the process of life. It means that no matter what, we are trusting His plan, just as Jeremiah 29:11 says. A process that I've been learning about lately, and I've been doing for the past few weeks, will come as no surprise to those of you who know me, but it's been the process of creating a photograph. And by creating a photograph, I don't mean getting out your phones, unlocking it, opening the camera, clicking the button, and checking straight away if it's done. I mean the process of taking a photo on film, developing it, and then putting it into chemicals to produce the photo. Something that I can't check straight away. And there's these steps, there's these processes, and sometimes they really don't work out. Some of you may know the process it takes to develop a photograph, but if you don't, here's the steps. All right, and it's 3 pages long of instructions. Long process, but lucky for you, don't have to read it because I'm just going to summarize it a little bit. Now, first you have to prepare the chemicals. And this has to be done in a controlled environment, so not only do you have to be creative of how you take the photo, you have to use some scientific evidence and maths, and it causes a little bit of a headache. But you go into complete darkness, no lights, nothing. All you can feel is the film, and you have to put it on this spoil. It's really hard in complete darkness. And then you put it into the container, pour the developer in. This is the worst part because the developer has to stay in for 20 minutes and you have to stand there for 20 minutes, agitating it, knocking it with your hand every 30 seconds. So you're just standing there watching time pass for 20 minutes. And then the film goes into 3 other different chemicals after this, constantly agitated for 2 minutes. You don't know how the photo is going to come out. You're completely blind. And the first time I did this by myself, I was so happy. I was like, yes, I did the chemicals right, it didn't take me as long, and I was so excited until I got my roll of film out, and for those of you who can see it, it was completely empty. No photos on it, just clear. Now, this happened when I developed the roll of film by myself for the first time. However, the second time, I went to my lecturer and I asked them to help me. And this is the second time. Whoop. This is what happened the second time. I got a roll of film that actually had photos on it. Same steps taken taking the photo, same settings, same processes developing the film, but the difference was I had the guidance of my teacher there. Unfortunately, that's just the first process that I had to go through, and this was just for the film. I had to go through another long process to actually see the photograph printed onto papers. So similar, we went into the dark room where all the trays are. You've got the tongs, you lay it out, you put the chemicals in, you put a piece of paper underneath an enlarger, it lets light onto the paper, and again, you go through the process. Constantly agitate the paper in the chemicals for 2 minutes, and then water, and then another lot of chemicals for a minute, and then a photo coat, which makes it all shiny. This one you can do with a little light called a safe light. It's like a little red light bulb that sits in the corner of the room. But we're still doing it in complete darkness. And this is what happened the first time I produced my photo in the dark room. It was double exposed. The lines and strips were intentional because it was a test print, so I knew what I had to do. But I had 2 heads on my dog and it just wasn't working for me. And at this point, I got frustrated, I got annoyed, I'd spent half an hour in the complete darkness, standing there, agitating chemicals to have the photo turned out like this. So again, I went to my lecturer, I asked them for their guidance, I asked them for their help, and the second time round, I learnt from my mistakes, and with the guidance of my teacher, I managed to get a print that wasn't double exposed. And you may be wondering, why is she sharing this with you? Why is she sharing the process of developing a photo? And that's because that process that I go through to develop the film can be a process that relates to life. We're always thrown with storms and challenges, and much like the process trying to develop film, we sometimes can feel like we're alone and that we're left into darkness. But when we're facing challenges in life, God is with us by our side all the time, and we can trust him to get us through the challenge. We can trust him with the process that he's putting us through in life because he has it planned out. The story of Noah, for example. The story of Noah, and it's cut it off, but it's meant to say Noah's Ark. And if you want to open your Bibles, the story is found in Genesis 6. Otherwise, I'll be reading a little bit of it out. The story starts off like this. Noah was a righteousness man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God, and that he had 3 sons. Now, this is what God had said to Noah. I am going to put an end to all the people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening. Put a door on the inside of the ark, and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everyone on earth will be perished. God then goes on to explain who is meant to be on the ark, and he says that this is what he's going to do. I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has a breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish a covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons, your wife, your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of every living creature, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to keep alive. You are to take every kind of flood that is to be eaten, every kind of food that is to be eaten, and store it away as food for you and for them." And then it goes on to say that Noah commanded all that the Lord had told him. Not some of it, not half of it. He didn't leave out the steps to build the ark. He listened to God every step of the way, and he did all that God commanded him to do. He listened to God. He trusted God. And in the outcome of the ark, if Noah hadn't trusted God, then they wouldn't have been led through the flood for 40 days, and they would not have probably landed safely onto dry land afterwards. Noah put his trust on God when he was told to build the ark. I'm sure that when Noah was building the ark, he felt some kind of pain, and it was probably physical pain, but he kept going. He endured through the pain, and he trusted God. There's also going to be some pain for us in the process of trusting God. And 1 Peter 6 verse 7 says, let's go back. Yep, there it is. Cool. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 6 and 7 says, "So be truly glad, there is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show you that your faith is genuine." I read that and I start to think, that's all I need right there when I'm going through these storms, when I'm going through these trials. That even though we're stuck in a challenge, we're stuck in the middle of the storm, there's always hope for us, because God says to us that it's only for a little while. Not forever, it's not going to last throughout our whole life, but it means that whatever storm we're currently facing, it's not going to last when you have full trust in God's process. I don't know about you, but I always want to go around a storm. If there's trouble ahead, I don't want to go through it. I don't want to experience it. I want to take the shortcuts. It's like if you're on a hike, and I don't know how many of you have been to Anstey or Mount Lofty, but if you see a snake on that path in summer, you're not going to go towards the trouble. You're going to go around it. You're going to go in every other direction and run the other way, because you know that's going to bring you trouble. That's going to bring you possibly death. That is going to physically hurt you. And it's like that when we're going through storms. When God puts us somewhere, we don't want to go through it. We're trying to get out of it. We're trying to take a shortcut. But if it's a part of God's process for life, and if it's a part of his plans, then he's going to be with us in the middle of the storm, because he always has a purpose for it, and it means that we're probably going to learn something from it. There's this quote, and it says, "If you shortcut the process, you short-circuit the product." Now, I want you to think of that for a second and relate it to life. If you don't know what a shortcut is, it's when you choose to take a shorter time frame, a route to complete something. And a short-circuit product means essentially that the product isn't going to reach its full potential because you've taken out steps and you've skipped it. Now, in the story of Noah, it would have been very different ending if he had skipped the steps that God had decided to tell him to do. Imagine if the ark didn't have a third level. Maybe not everyone would have fitted on. And it's like us listening to God. When we are applying this to life and we go through a tough and challenging time, but we decide to try everything and do everything we can to change that plan, the outcome isn't going to be what God has for our life, because we're going to short-circuit that outcome that he has. We're going to change the outcome because we haven't gone through the process that he wants us to go through. I watched a video a while back, and unfortunately I couldn't remember who it was by, but it's by an American pastor, and he says this. Let's go back. Hang on. Oh yeah. We know that God causes everything to work together for those who love God and are called according to his plan. Now, that's from Romans 8:28. And then the pastor goes on to say, always look for God in the way things are, not for the way you want things to be. So when you're going through what may seem like the worst time in your life, find God in the then. Don't look for him in the future. Look for him in the current storm you're going through. Unlike developing that film that didn't work and that photograph that didn't work that I spent hours of time trying to develop, we don't have to go through the challenges of life alone or in complete darkness. Lucky for us, we have God in our life every step of the way. He's with us in the center of the storm. Yes, it may feel like we're left in complete darkness, but He's always there. He hasn't left us in the middle alone. He hasn't stayed at the start because He got too lazy. He hasn't raced to the end because He's in a rush. He's with us side by side. And just like Romans verse 8:28 says, we know that God causes everything to work together according to His plan, and according to those that are called to the purpose, to His purpose. So I challenge you that when you're facing a challenge and you feel like you're stuck in the middle of the storm, put your trust in God because He already knows what's planned out for your life. There's always a purpose for the process that God is putting you through.